This is Roy Trakin, and we're with Perry Farrell and David Navarro from Jane's Addiction.
Hi. I'm only kidding. We're here. Let's try it again. Sorry about that, Roy.
Okay, no problem. This is Roy Trakin, and we're with Perry Farrell and David Navarro from Jane's Addiction.
Hi.
That's the thing. Let's talk a little bit about how the band came together. Maybe, Dave, you can tell us, because you come from a sort of an interesting background coming into this group of people. You were originally involved in more hard rock sort of metal bands.
I was more into metal bands at the time, really.
Speed metal.
Speed metal, actually. But I got really bored of that because it just turned out to be the same thing all the time. Every song was the same. And it turned out that actually the drummer now, Steve Perkins, and I were in that speed metal band called Disaster at the time. And Steve met up with Eric Avery, our bass player, and in turn joined Jane's Addiction, and then turned around and said, how about Dave as a guitar player? He's a great guitar player, but he's into metal. But which wasn't really true. I played a lot of metal.
But he's into metal.
Yeah, but he's into metal, the Hex. But it turned around and it wasn't just metal for me. It was just, that's what I was doing at the time, but I had a wide variety of interests. And I dug this band a lot more because I had the chance to do the hard rock thing, but also had another chance to do something else, which was completely different. And also take the hard rock thing and turn it into a different aspect of music, or of hard rock music.
Well, do you guys feel like a Los Angeles band? I mean, certainly you're based here. You're not all from here. People identify you like that, throw you in with a scene, with bands perhaps you have, something in common with or little in common with.
Yeah, I think that I'm proud to be from Los Angeles. I've seen some just beautiful, beautiful bands growing out of Los Angeles. Unfortunately, the bands that they lump us in with are not those beautiful bands. I'm talking about people like, X and the Minutemen, the Chili Peppers and Fishbone, who are just the most underrated bands going. I mean, why those bands don't get, #1 hit singles, I don't know. They're not fitting a normal format, and I think they suffer a little bit because of it. But we've had some great bands growing out of here, and I feel proud to be from here because of those bands.
Now, is Up the Beach your reaction to being a sort of Los Angeles stereotype of, beach, surfer kid?
No,
that type of thing?
No. Oceanside is about being homeless. It was written. I lived in a house, an 8-room house that was occupied by about, I'd say, 14 people, and they were all clean, every one of them. They always did the dishes and always kept their the house very well, groomed. All musicians, and we were kicked out of the place. They told us to move. We had to evacuate. And at that time in my life, I was just sick of moving because, I'm sure you've gone through the experience of having to go looking for apartments and stuff, and it's really difficult for a guy like myself to show up and try to, pass myself off as a normal, dependable young man who's not going to screw up this guy's house, when I leave. And the lyrics, if you think about it, and think about being homeless or having to leave your home, is I wish I was ocean size. They cannot move you. No one tries. No one pulls you out from your hole like a tooth aching a jawbone.
about the implications, though? What about people who are attracted to the music and then go to look for, to look for an underlying message? What would you like them to come away with?
I tell you what, I don't care. Because I've met people that have been so far from what I've said, so far from it, and they come up to me and they ask me, oh, didn't you mean this? Didn't you mean this? It's like, first of all, I don't like being completely pristine, clear about what I'm saying. That takes away half the fun, number one. And number two, I'm as obvious as I want to be in the lyrics. I give you what I want to give you, and that's as obvious as I'm going to be. Much more obvious than that, I'm not going to go into. If I wanted to be more obvious, I would have been more obvious when I wrote it. But like I say, half the fun is feeling like you figured it out, I mean, that to me is a lot, it's just part of it. And if I was to sit there and worry about everybody in the streets, I mean, I'd really I'd be a basket case. Because look at all these kids that go and do crazy things, over Ozzy Osbourne. And if I was to sit there and worry about the repercussions of what I do, I just can't do it. And also I realize that some people are really out of their minds. And even if I was to sit down with them and try to, tell them what's up, they're still going to go ahead and do something, completely off the wall anyway. There's very few people that have it together, So to sit there and worry about the general public and what they're going to do, it's like, come on, you're asking for too much.
It's interesting, though, your music for a band that's ostensibly kind of a punk or a post-punk band really isn't that political. You're dealing more with kind of like psychosexual situations, aren't you?
Well, we're not overtly political, but we're political, but in a philosophical way, and I've always tried to write that way because I kind of figured, like 4 Dead in Ohio, it kind of doesn't make sense anymore, you know what I mean? But if you were to sing something about Idiot's Rule, 20 years from now or 100 years from now, that would still make sense. So I try to stay away from writing politically about politicians or political events. But philosophy is something that's, like I say, I mean, the great philosophers still matter and they still make sense in these days. And I kind of feel like good philosophy is timeless.
It's true.
you do a lot of standing in the shower thinking?
You know, when we got kicked out of our house, we went to a place, and we live now in a store. And the store had to have things brought in, so there's a bathtub in there, but there's no shower. So now I lay in the bathtub and think.
Were you surprised at the reaction that the album cover got? We had a bunch of distributors claiming that they weren't going to carry it, and then what happened with that situation? Then you made a statement that this is the kind of art that you might see in museums, or museums have paintings of naked women.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, but not completely. I mean, like I say, when I put something together, I'm not I can't sit there and think about what is the guy who buys for a record chain going to think of this. It's not where I'm coming from. And I was surprised that many. I mean, eight of the major record chains decided that they thought it was something that they didn't want to carry in their store. Now, to tell your record company, listen, I know that 8 out of the 12 major chains aren't going to be carrying this, but I still like it an awful lot, and I want to keep it. It's a pretty tough thing to do, but I tell you, they stuck with it. And since then, 2 are left, but all of them have since turned around and are carrying it now. Which is, like I say, I think that's a great step. It's a step in the right direction, you know?
Do you feel that the kind of the seemingly repressive climate that we're in right now, what with the PMRC and the right-wing kind of shift in the country, has it made things easier for you or more difficult for you in terms of getting across the message?
Well, to tell you the truth, it works for us in odd ways. If it wasn't for those people, I don't think we would have a career. We seem to thrive on it. It's kind of like flowers, you know, they grow best in shit. And I think we seem to flourish with things like that, you know, confrontation. But I also think that I'm glad for the chance to do this, because I think that when things are done with integrity, I think that we can still, you know, break boundaries.
Perry, were you surprised at how well received the band has been critically?
I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm really surprised how well things are going, but you know, it's kind of funny. Things are going great and awful at the same time. I mean, we're getting critical acclaim, but we're also being, you know, slashed to bits at the same time. And we're doing, I think, terrific, but at the same time, we're cutting our throats at the same time by, you know, not playing ball, so to speak, not going through the motions as normal bands do, you know. Like, we're costing ourselves hundreds of thousands of records sales. You know, we're causing hundreds of thousands of records to not be sold. So I don't know if we're doing ourselves a favor or not.
What about the frequent comparisons to Led Zeppelin for one and the Doors for another with this band?
Well, you know, I'm not really offended by them, because I realize that a critic's job part of his job is to inform the public as to what this band is about, and his number one tool for a new band is to say who they're like, you know, give an example on who they resemble, so that the crowd who has never seen them can be informed somewhat as to what to expect. I'm not offended by it, but I'm not ecstatic about it, because I don't like being compared to anybody. Obviously, nobody really does, you know. Everybody wants to remain and feel like they are, you know, so unique that they're not like anybody. But those are not bad bands to be compared to, you know. They're 2 bands that I really liked, so it's okay by me.
Now, Jane Says is almost a signature song for the band, and I mentioned before it has a real kind of, you know, Lou Reed observational tone to it, almost like a short story, you know, with real people and real events. Do you consider it? I mean, people call it the signature song. I mean, do you feel closer to this song particularly than any of the others? It really seems to be,
I
one
do
of the
as a
more
result.
popular songs.
Yeah, I do as a result of the reaction that the people have had. If it wouldn't have been a popular song, I probably wouldn't have thought of it any differently. But, let's face it, it's got the name of the band in it, and it's a real Hollywood song. So, it's funny that you're talking about Jane because I was just with her last night, and we were doing interviews with Jane. And, it's also about a close friend. So I guess, that's puts a spot in your heart that, it will always be there. Jane is like the sweetest girl in the world if you ever met her. So, there is a softness in my heart towards that song.
Jane says, I'm done with Sergio. You treat me like a rag doll. She hides the television. Said I don't know him nothing but it. Oh, he come back again. Tell him, wait right here for me. Oh, try again tomorrow. I'm gonna kick tomorrow. I'm gonna kick tomorrow. Jane says, have you seen my wig around? I feel naked without it. She knows they all want her to go. But that's okay, man, she don't like them anyway. Jane says I'm going away to Spain when I get my money saved. Gonna start tomorrow. I'm gonna kick tomorrow. I'm gonna kick tomorrow. Well, she did, man, and she starts to cry. She take a swing, man. She can't help. She don't mean no harm. She just don't know what else to do about it. And Jane goes to the store at 8. She walks up on St. Andrews. She waits and gets her dinner there. She pulls her dinner from her pocket. Jane says I ain't never been in love. I don't know what it is. She only knows if someone wants her. I want 'em if they want me. I only know they want me. She gives me and she starts to cry. She takes a swing, man. She can't help. She don't mean no harm. She just don't know what else to do about it. Jane says, Jane says,